Hey everybody, welcome back to our pizza episode part 2, where we are going to work on the proper techniques for stretching the dough, topping the dough, and cooking the pizza. Right now our doughs have been rising for just about 24 hours. As you can tell, they've definitely grew in size for your own doughs. Also right now, just try to form the doughs back into regular ball shapes like this, because when they rise, they kind of grow into those irregular shapes. Hopefully your dough rose properly. If it didn't, it probably means the yeast was expired, and you should try the same recipe again but with fresh yeast. So these are our doughs here. As you can tell, they're definitely a lot lighter than what they were before rising. They're a lot stretchier, easier to work with than before, and they're more airy. One thing we do want to watch out for is, just in case the doughs, if one dough wasn't fully covered while it was rising, it can start to develop a crust. So if you can see here, it will get like a yellowish sort of crust. You can see here where it kind of covered in flour. The one thing you want to do is you just want to cut that off, because that is not going to fire well when it's in the oven. It'll keep the dough flat and it won't allow the crust to properly rise, which will make the dough more dense and a little bit crunchier than what we're looking for, rather than like the light and airy dough. Today we'll be making classic margherita pizza, so let's take a look at our ingredients. We have, of course, our San Marzano tomatoes, just regular crushed tomatoes. To this, we're going to add just a pinch of salt. Next, we have mozzarella cheese. This is just fresh mozzarella cheese. I'm going to show you the proper technique for preparing this for the pizza. We have some fresh basil that's washed and just drying on a paper towel. And finally, just some good Italian olive oil. For the cheese, all that we're going to do is just with your fingers, just kind of peel off the pieces, just like this, into small chunks, kind of strands. It should just kind of peel apart as you go through the layers. We're not looking for any particular size, just because it's all going to melt anyway. You could also use shredded mozzarella cheese for this. Just be careful, because that tends to be saltier. So watch out for the salt intake on your pizza. Once we have all this shredded, we're just going to let it dry on a plate for about 30 minutes before we put it on our pizza. We just want to let some of that moisture evaporate off of the mozzarella, or just go into the plate, because we don't want it to all pool in the pizza once the pizza cooks, because that'll lead to a soggy and wet crust. So we have our pizza peel here that we just added a little bit of flour to, so that the pizza slides off easier when it's going into the oven. We're just going to get our dough, kind of work with it with our hands. The dough should be room temperature while you're working with it, so if you made the dough in advance and you put it in the fridge or in the freezer, make sure it gets fully to room temperature, otherwise it'll be too cold to stretch out. So now we put our dough in the middle, and we just slowly work around in a circle to stretch out the dough. Pick it up, flip it over a couple times. So we have our pizza here all stretched out. As you can see, we have a good amount of flour on the bottom, so the pizza can kind of slide around on this, so it's easy to get into the oven. We're just going to add a little bit of tomato, not too much. Use the back of the spoon just to kind of spread it around. So this is what the 250 gram sizes make. If you want, you can try to up the size to make a larger style pizza, but I find that this is a good size for an individual pizza. So now, after we have our tomato all spread out, just going to add the cheese. Just kind of spread it out. You don't want too much, because it'll definitely melt, so you just a little bit will go a long way. So that should be good. Finally, our basil. You just rip the basil, spread it around. Put it just a little bit everywhere around the pizza. Adds good flavor. Just top it with a little drizzle of olive oil. It's ready to go in the oven. So the pizzas we're going to make today are going to be cooked in an outdoor pizza oven. Now I understand that most people don't have a pizza oven outdoors, so in that case, the way you cook this pizza, you just crank your oven up to the highest temperature it can get, usually somewhere between 500 and 525 degrees. Place one of these in your oven. This is commonly called a pizza stone. It's just a piece of stone that goes into your oven. As it preheats, it gets really, really hot. And then you're just going to cook it the same way you would in an outdoor pizza oven. It's just going to go in here. The pizza goes directly on top of the board, and it's going to cook for about 5 to 6 minutes in your oven, depending on the temperature. Just check the bottom of the pizza to make sure it's a light brown color. When it comes out of the oven, this is kind of the color that we're looking for. We want it to be a little brown on the top. You see how it kind of gets charred over here. The bottom should be a nice light brown color. When it comes out, I like to top it with just a little bit of fresh Parmigiano Reggiano. And then another little drizzle of olive oil. And that's it for the perfect pizza.